Good evening, everyone. Yesterday, we discussed in our lecture about the different types of simple permanent tissues, where we talked about parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, which are termed as simple permanent tissue. Anyone, any doubt regarding that? Class?
No doubt.
So we will move ahead. We will learn today the complex permanent tissue, which will include xylem and phloem. So first question that may come into your mind, that why they are called complex permanent. What is so complex about them? Okay, so in complex permanent tissue, uh, they are called complex because they have more than one type of cell. Now you may be having a doubt कि parenchyma के भी काफी सारे variations we studied in our last lecture, that it can be erenchyma, it can be collenchyma. Similarly, sclerites can be brachysclerites. Sclerites can be bone shaped, we call them osteosclerite. They can be star shaped, we can call them astroscleroids. So in simple tissue also, various types of parenchyma, various types of sclerenchyma are available. But then also we say that it has one type of cell. So why this confusion is there? At a time, at a specific place, only one type of cells are there. That's why it is known as simple permanent tissue. That means if I am talking about collenchyma, it will be only collenchyma. If I'm talking about chlorenchyma, it will be only chlorenchyma. They don't have mixed cells which are performing same function. If there is modification in structure, their functions change. But in complex permanent tissue, that includes xylem and phloem, different types of cells are working for a common purpose, that is transportation of substances. So in this picture, you can see how if we take a cross section of root, how it will look. This is the cross section of the root. And in cross section of root, how the outermost layer, that is epidermis, is there. Then there will be presence of phloem and xylem. Okay. So this is how phloem and xylems are arranged like a pipeline in a plant, and they are indeed working as a pipeline for transportation of water and food. Okay, so let us have a look into xylem. For xylem, xylem has four components present in them. What are these four components? These are tracheids, vessels are also known as trachea. Apart from that, xylem fibers and xylem tendon. So it is functioning as a conducting tissue. So why xylem is named as xylem? Because in Greek, the word xylos means wood. So at the xylos means wood. So that's why it was introduced by Nageli, that he named it as xylem for conduction of water as well as inorganic minerals, solutes which are transported by xylem. Okay, so now let us know about details of these elements. See, xylem is basically a dead tissue. It's not a living tissue. The components like trachea, vessel, and xylem fiber, all three of them are made up of dead cells. Only xylem parenchyma is living in xylem. So you can understand that how xylem can be very important to act as a mechanical support to the plant. It is responsible not only for transportation of water and mineral nutrient, it is also important for the purpose of providing mechanical support to the plant. Okay, let's move ahead. So what are tracheids? You can see the diagrams of tracheids. Tracheids are spindle-shaped cells which are having tapering ends, and these circular structures are well or ornamentations present in their body. Okay, they are having very thick cell wall, and this is having a lot of lignin deposition present in them. Okay, as they are dead cells, so protoplasm is completely absent, and if you take a cross section, you can see in cross section generally they look as if they are angular or polygonal. So if you cut this cell from this plane, you will feel that as if they are polygonal in shape when you are looking at it from the top view. Okay, now tracheids and vessels are major part which is acting for the formation of the transport pipeline of the plant. Okay, now their walls are very much lignified and they have empty lumen. What is this lumen? If you consider a pipe, inside pipe there is a hollow cavity beta through which water pass on. This hollow cavity is known as lumen. Understood? So here this is the lumen. So this lumen are very important for the transportation of water, because the size of tracheids can be from 1 millimeter length. So you can understand how long they can be. Okay, and actually in some cases tracheids may have procambium and they can help in the secondary growth too. But initially, although they have ability to divide, slowly and gradually the meristematic tissues convert into permanent one to form tracheids and trachea. Okay, let us move ahead. Next one is vessel. Vessel is a tube-like structure. The way tracheids are having tapering ends, vessels are having plain ends with a hole in within. Vessels are also known as trachea, as I said. They also have a lignified wall and large central cavity is there. The cavity of vessels are broader than the cavities of tracheids. So vessel membrane are interconnected through perforation in their common wall. Means if you consider this is the one vessel and at the bottom of this another vessel is there. These two vessels will have wall perforation. Perforation means pores through which all of them are connected and all of them come together to form a single pipeline. Okay. Vessel is present only in case of angiosperms. Gymnosperms lack vessel. Even pteridophytes lack vessel. They don't have vessel present in them. It is the characteristics of angiosperm. Okay. So next is xylem fiber. So this is the shape of the fiber. So fiber can be septate or aseptate. By this time now you know what is septate and aseptate. Septate means they have walls present to separate the nucleus. That's why septate xylem fibers have single nucleus per cell, whereas aseptate one can have many nucleus together. So the main function of xylem fiber is to provide mechanical support to the tracheids and trachea, and as I said, they are also non-living cells. So here, only living cell is xylem parenchyma. Their cell walls are comparatively less thin, and they have cell wall made up of cellulose, unlike lignin and suberin and other things deposited on cell wall of others. Mainly they are there for the storage of food materials and secondary metabolites like tannin. So there are parenchyma cells which are known as ray parenchyma. So consider a situation if you have a stain at the center part of it, there is xylem. Now water needs to reach in all direction from here, no? So ray parenchyma cells are helped in the transportation of water in radial direction. That means along with the all direction considering center as the other components of xylem. Okay, so that's all about xylem. Now I wish to share here that the primary xylem can be of two types. Primary xylem, if it is formed first, it is called protoxylem. And if it is formed later on, it is called metaxylem. So out of these two, protoxylem will be formed first and metaxylem will be formed later on. Okay. Now, protoxylem generally in case of stem, protoxylem will lie at the center. So you can see, if you see here, this is the vascular bundle where here xylems are there and then phloem is present here. This blue part is phloem. I guess my screen is visible and everyone is there with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So protoxylem you can see present at the center. How center? Consider beta, this is a क्रॉस सेक्शन ऑफ अ स्टेम. अगर ये स्टेम का क्रॉस सेक्शन है तो स्टेम का सेंटर कौन सा हुआ? दिस इज द सेंटर. सो प्रोटोजाइलम विल बी प्रेजेंट एट द टुवर्ड्स द सेंटर. ओके, एंड मेटाजाइलम is towards the periphery. So this is how the metaxylem will be existing. This is a small part cut and enlarged to show you the condition. So if protoxylem is present in the at the center and metaxylem is present at the periphery, this type of xylem arrangement is known as endark. Whereas in case of root, it is exactly opposite, where you can see the metaxylem is present at the center and protoxylem is present at the periphery. So this type of arrangement of xylem is known as exarch. So we will now look into phloem. The way xylem is responsible for transportation of water and mineral nutrients. In case of phloem, it is responsible for transportation of organic food. For example, plants produce food as glucose by photosynthesis. At the time of transport, it is converted into sucrose. And at the time of storage, it is transformed into starch. So, obviously, in case of phloem, the food is produced in the leaf, but it is required by all plant parts. Whereas in case of xylem, the water is absorbed from the down part, that is from soil, and it needs to be distributed towards all parts. Now, one very important thing I wish to share here, that in case of xylem, the flow is unidirectional. Why? Consider a situation you have a very healthy plant. So when I'm talking about transportation of water, it will be always absorbed from the soil by the root. And now this water will be transported from top to bottom. Obviously, there will be no chance of transportation of water from bottom to top. Do you think this option will be there? Class? Can water be transported? No. क्योंकि ऊपर water का कोई source है ही नहीं बेटा. Water they are going to get from bottom only. So that's why the transportation of water is always unidirectional. Now let us talk about the food. Okay. So food is produced here in the leaf. Now this food needs to go downward. It may go to roots. Root may store food. Now consider this root is fed by storage of the food. Once required, this food needs to be transported back to the other part of plants. So that is why in case of food transport, it is bidirectional. And in case of water transport, it is always unidirectional. Understood? Class?
Yes, ma'am.
Why food needs to transport it from down to top, top to down in all direction. That's why transportation of food is bidirectional. Whereas in case of water is always unidirectional. So many a times people ask about the difference between xylem and phloem. You can mention it as one of the points. So transport of food material to other parts are not always done by passive transport. When I'm talking about transportation of water, beta, it's always generally passive transport. Wheresoever like difference of concentration of water is there, transportation will take place from high amount of water to low amount of water by osmosis, diffusion, and by other means. But in case of food, it is not always passive transport, it can be active transports too. That's why phloem cannot afford to have non-living cells present in it. Okay, so that's why in phloem most of the cells are living. Only phloem fibers are non-living. Okay, so let us have a look into the components of phloem. You can see that these are sieve cells, these blue colored margin cells. Why they are called sieve cells? Because they have, their margin is having sieve-like structure. Sieve means छन्नी. छन्नी में जैसे छेद होते हैं same. Okay, so you can see sieve pores present over here. Apart from sieve tube element, there are cells which are called companion cells. Now they are best friends. Sieve tube, when they get matured, they lose their nucleus. You must have heard their name. I told you, in plant, the cell without nucleus is sieve tube. So how they manage transportation of food? Companion cell is responsible to help them. That's why it is observed that if in a phloem, sieve tube is intact, but the companion cell of that sieve tube cell element is dead, then the sieve tube cell will also die. Because without companion cell, the sieve tube is of no use. Is that all? Yes, Rutu?
Ma'am, can you again explain why phloem can't afford to have dead cells?
Beta, because active transport करने हैं ना, what is done in active transport? Rutu, can you define active transport for me?
Yes, ma'am, against the concentration gradient.
So you require ATP for that.
N1,
Yes, isn't it? You require specialized protein for that. Even if you want to go for facilitated diffusion, you require specific proteins for that, no? So how we will work if a cell is dead? That's why phloem have most of the types of cells. Understood?
Okay.
So, yes, beta.
Ma'am, can you repeat that companion cell part?
Yes, definitely. Companion cells are, as their name suggesting, that they are true companion of xylem. That means companion किसे बोलते हैं हम? Who are called companion?
Which give us support.
जो हमेशा साथ रहता है ना? So obviously, as they are called as companion cell, they are always associated with the sieve tube element. Because sieve tube element do not have nucleus, so if these companion cells die, the sieve tube element will also die. They cannot function without companion. Is it all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So, other than these sieve tube and companion cells, phloem has phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. Basically, phloem fibers are nothing but sclerenchyma cells. So, the function of all these we are going to learn one by one. So, what is this? This sieve tube. You can see they are long tube-like structure. They are arranged longitudinally one above another and always associated with companion cells. They have at the what I can say, in between two sieve tube element, there are these sieve plates responsible to act as a sieve, that is channi. Okay, so generally as long as the sieve cells matures, it has peripheral cytoplasm and very big vacuole, but it doesn't have nucleus present in it. Okay, so the function of sieve tubes are controlled by nucleus of companion cell. So if primary phloem is formed, which is called protophlloem, it will have very narrow sieve tube. But metaphloem, similar to metaxylem, they have very big sieve tubes. Big means their diameters are more. Okay. Another thing I wish to mention here, many a time during the winter season, availability of water is less, and there is during transportation, of carbohydrate, callose, there are deposition of callose in those sieve pores. So due to which sieve pores are getting blocked and the transportation of food in plants slows down. At the onset of spring season, when water amount is available in high, so at that time the callose are washed out and again the sieve pores are clear and the transportation get back to its original form. Understood? So
Yes, ma'am.
let us move ahead and look into the structure of companions. So companion cell is nothing but a specialized type of parenchyma cell. Okay. So we are connected via to companion cell via pit. You can see this is the pit through which companion cell and sieve tubes are connected. Okay. Now I wish to ask you one question. Why sieve tubes? It is preferred in case of sieve tubes that they do not have nucleus. Why this is required? They could have been having the nucleus. फिर क्या problem था उनको companion cell पे depend नहीं करना पड़ता.
Ma'am, it will occupy space or food transportation.
Very good, beta. It will block the passage, no? It will block the passage. If in a pipeline, if you are putting balls or if you are putting some obstacle, the flow will not be uniform. But you require someone to control. That's why nucleus is present in companion cell, which is not directly participating in transport, and it is connected with the sieve tube to control it. Okay. So what control? It maintains the pressure gradient. Gradient means difference. So the transport is totally under control of companion cell. Now phloem parenchyma. They are generally tapering cylindrical cells. Very dense cytoplasm and nucleus is there. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. They have slight pits present in them, which like in between two cell there are plasmodesmata. We know plasmodesmata cell path through which cytoplasm of one cell is connected to the other cell. In case of monocots, generally phloem parenchyma is absent. In case of dicot, they are present in high amount, and their main function is storage of food material, and it stores other substances like resins, latex. For example, rubber is a latex. Resins, for example, gums and resins we obtain from plants. Okay. Next is phloem fiber. So it's nothing but a sclerenchyma cell, and it is generally absent in primary phloem, majorly present in secondary phloem or metaphlloem. They are elongated structure and they are not branched. Okay, so at maturity they lose their protoplasm and becomes dead. The jute plant, from jute we obtain the fiber. This is nothing but phloem fiber. Its main role is mechanical support, and so this is the tissue structure at a glance. So once we are done with this, I am going to show you one video related to anatomy of flowering plant. Let me share the screen. I guess the screen is visible, beta.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a big video describing whole chapter. We will learn about them one by one.
every day.
Kindly confirm if
We come across
you can
several
see and
varieties
hear
of
properly.
plants every day. The
Is it
internal
alright?
structures of these plants have some similarities and some differences. The study of the internal structure of plants is known as anatomy. Let's understand the anatomy of a flowering plant. A plant is formed of different types of tissues. Tissue refers to a group of cells that have a similar structure and perform the same function. There are two main types of plant tissues: meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues undergo active cell division, while the permanent tissues do not undergo any division. The word meristem has been derived from the Greek word meris, which means division. The specialized region in plants where meristematic tissues are present is known as the meristem. Active cell division takes place in this region, leading to the growth of the plant. After meristematic division, the newly formed cells become structurally and functionally specialized and lose the ability to divide. These cells are also known as permanent cells or mature cells. There are two basic types of meristems: primary and secondary. Primary meristems help in the development of the primary plant body. They are present throughout the life of the plant. Primary meristem can be further divided into two types: apical meristem and intercalary meristem. Apical meristems are named depending on their location in the plant's body. The meristem found at the tips of the roots is known as root apical meristem, whereas the meristem found at the tip of the shoot is known as shoot apical meristem. During the formation of the leaves and the elongation of the stem, some cells are left behind from the shoot apical meristem. These cells form axillary buds. Axillary buds are formed at the axil of the leaves and can develop into a branch or a flower. During the formation of the primary plant body, some particular regions of the apical meristem produce dermal tissues, ground tissues, and vascular tissues. Another type of primary meristem is intercalary meristem, which occurs between mature tissues. It helps in regenerating grass blades removed or eaten by grazing animals. Meristem that appears later in a plant's life is called secondary or lateral meristem. It occurs in the mature regions of the roots and shoots of many plants. Secondary meristem is responsible for producing woody axis and secondary tissues. Fascicular vascular cambium, interfascicular cambium, and cork cambium are some examples of secondary meristems. Thus, meristematic tissues play a vital role in the primary and secondary growth of a plant. Like all living organisms, the cells in a plant are also grouped into various tissues. Permanent plant tissue is a group of cells which are complete in growth and usually incapable of meristematic activity. Permanent plant tissue is of two types: simple permanent tissues, and complex permanent tissues. Complex permanent tissues are a group of more than one type of cells that have a common origin and work together as a unit. There are two types of complex permanent tissues in plants: xylem and phloem. Xylem performs the function of conduction of water and minerals from the roots to the stem and leaves. It also provides mechanical strength to the plant. Xylem consists of 4 different types of cells: tracheids, vessels, xylem fibers, and xylem parenchyma. Tracheids are elongated, angular, lignified cells with tapering ends. They are dead and without any proptoplasm. The inner layers of the cell walls in tracheids vary in thickness.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire, messages that forge brighter connections, and
Vessels are long, tube-like structures composed of many cells called vessel members. Vessel members have lignified walls and a large central cavity. They are interconnected through perforations in their common walls. Typically, vessels are found in all angiosperms, and vessel cells do not have protoplasm. Xylem fibers are sclerenchymatous fibers associated with the xylem. They have highly thickened walls and obliterated central lumens. These may be septate or aseptate. Xylem parenchyma is composed of parenchymatous cells. They are living and thin-walled, with cell walls made up of cellulose. These cells store food material as starch or fat, or substances such as tannin. Some xylem cells are arranged in the form of a ray through which radial conduction of water takes place. These cells are known as xylem ray parenchymatous cells. They are produced from the differentiation of vascular cambium. We'll now learn about primary xylem, which consists of the young cells produced from meristematic tissues by the differentiation process. Primary xylem is of 2 types: protoxylem and metaxylem. The primary xylem elements formed in the beginning of a plant's life are known as protoxylem. On the other hand, the primary xylem elements formed in the later stages are known as metaxylem. The arrangements of primary xylem are endarch and exarch. In the stem, the protoxylem lies towards the center or pith, and the metaxylem lies towards the periphery of the stem. This arrangement of primary xylem is called endarch. Let's talk about the roots now. Here, the protoxylem lies towards the periphery and the metaxylem lies towards the center. This arrangement of primary xylem is known as exarch. The second complex permanent tissue that transports food materials from the leaves to the other parts is known as phloem. In angiosperms, the phloem consists of sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem parenchyma, and phloem fibers. Sieve tube elements are tube-like structures that are arranged in a longitudinal manner. They are closely associated with companion cells, which are parenchymatous in nature. The end walls of sieve tube elements are perforated in a sieve-like manner and form sieve plates. The functions of sieve tubes are controlled by the nucleus of the companion cells. The sieve tube elements and companion cells are connected by pit fields present between their common longitudinal walls. The companion cells also help in maintaining the pressure gradient in the sieve tubes. Phloem parenchyma stores food material and other substances like resins, latex, and mucilage. It consists of elongated, tapering cylindrical cells that have dense cytoplasm and nucleus. The cell wall of phloem parenchyma is made up of cellulose. It has pits through which plasmodesmatal connections exist between the cells. Phloem fibers or bast fibers are made up of sclerenchymatous cells found in secondary phloem. They are elongated, unbranched with pointed apices, and their cell wall is quite thick. On maturity, phloem fibers lose their protoplasm and become dead. Jute, flax, and hemp are some examples of commercially used phloem fibers. Complex permanent tissues are engaged in the transportation of water, minerals, nutrients, and organic substances. Therefore, they are extremely essential for the survival of plants. Permanent plant tissue is a group of cells which are complete in growth and usually incapable of meristematic activity. Permanent tissue is of two types: simple permanent tissues, where all cells are similar in structure and function, and complex permanent tissues, which are composed of different types of cells. Let's learn more about simple tissues. There are three types of simple permanent tissues: parenchyma, cholenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma is the most common ground tissue. It performs functions such as photosynthesis, storage, and secretion. The cells of the parenchyma have the same dimensions or the same length, width, and height, which means that they are isodiametric. Parenchymatous cells are of different shapes, such as sphere, oval, round, polygonal, or elongated. The cell walls are thin and made up of cellulose. Parenchymatic cells may be closely packed or have small intercellular spaces between them. The second type of simple permanent tissue is cholenchyma. It is found in the layers below the epidermis of dicotyledonous plants. This layer is either homogeneous or in patches. Cholenchyma provides mechanical support to the growing parts of a plant, such as a young stem or the petiole of a leaf. The cells of the cholenchyma are thick at the corners due to cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectin deposits. They may be oval, spherical, or polygonal in shape, and there is no intercellular space between them. These cells often contain chloroplasts and assimilate food by the photosynthetic processes. The third type of simple permanent tissue is sclerenchyma, which consists of long, narrow cells with thick lignified cell walls. In fact, the term sclerenchyma has been derived from the Greek word skleros, which means hard. Sclerenchyma provides stiffness or mechanical support to plant organs. The cell walls of sclerenchyma have a few or many pits. These cells are generally dead and without any protoplasts. Based on the variation in form, structure, origin and development, sclerenchyma tissue can be of two types: fibers and sclereids. Fibers are narrow, elongated, spindle-shaped, thick-walled cells with pointed ends. They usually occur in groups in various parts of the plant. Sclereids are short and thick-walled cells, generally spherical, oval, or cylindrical in shape. They are extremely lignified and have narrow cavities or lumen. They occur in the hard covering of seeds, the shells of nuts, and the pulp of fruits like guava, pear, and sapota. Simple permanent tissues are very essential as they provide protection, storage, support, and strength to the plant. The body of a plant consists of various types of cells which form different types of tissues. The structure and function of these tissues depend entirely on where they are located inside a plant. Therefore, based on this, plant tissue systems can be classified into three types: epidermal tissue system, ground or fundamental tissue system, and vascular or conducting tissue system. Let's begin by studying the epidermal tissue system. As the name suggests, this tissue forms the outermost covering of the plant body. It consists of epidermal cells, stomata, and epidermal appendages, including trichomes and hairs. Epidermis refers to the outermost layer of the primary plant body. It is a continuous layer of elongated and compactly arranged cells. Epidermal cells are parenchymatous in nature, and their cell walls are lined with a small amount of cytoplasm that has a large vacuole. The outer layer of the epidermis is coated with a thick and waxy layer called the cuticle, which prevents the loss of water. Stomata are present in the epidermis of the leaves. They regulate the process of transpiration and gaseous exchange. Each stoma consists of two bean-shaped cells called guard cells. Guard cells contain chloroplasts and regulate the opening and closing of a stoma. In grasses, the guard cells are dumbbell-shaped. The outer walls of the guard cells, which are away from the stomatal pore, are thin, while the inner walls, which are towards the stomatal pore, are very thick. When the epidermal cells associated with the guard cells become specialized in shape and size, they are known as subsidiary cells. The stomatal aperture, guard cells, and the surrounding subsidiary cells are collectively called stomatal apparatus. The epidermal tissue has epidermal appendages such as hair and trichomes. The root hairs are unicellular elongations of the epidermal cells, and they help absorb water and minerals from the soil. The epidermal hairs on the stem are known as trichomes. They may be branched, unbranched, soft or stiff, and may also be secretory in function. Besides this, trichomes prevent loss of water due to transpiration. The second type of tissue system is the ground tissue system. The ground tissue in primary stems and roots consists of parenchymatous cells found in the cortex,
Today I'm trying out the Lakme Absolute Precision Lip Paint. If you want to see how it looks in you, click the try on button below. Now let's take up the design.
pericycle, pith, and medullary rays. In the leaves, ground tissue is composed of thin-walled chloroplast-containing cells, collectively called mesophyll. Let's now study the third type of tissue system, the vascular tissue system. It is composed of complex tissues, namely xylem and phloem, which together form vascular bundles. In the vascular bundles of dicotyledonous plants, cambium is present between the phloem and xylem. Due to the presence of cambium, such vascular bundles can form secondary xylem and phloem tissues and are known as open vascular bundles. On the other hand, in monocotyledonous plants, vascular bundles do not contain cambium. They are unable to form secondary xylem and phloem tissues and are thus called closed vascular bundles. There are two types of vascular bundle arrangements, radial and conjoint. The radial arrangement is generally found in roots, where the xylem and phloem in a vascular bundle are arranged in an alternate manner at different radii. In the conjoint arrangement found in stem and leaves, the xylem and phloem are situated at the same radius of the vascular bundles. The conjoint vascular bundles usually have the phloem located only on the outer side of the xylem. In the conjoint open arrangement, the cambium is present between the xylem and phloem, while in the conjoint closed arrangement, the cambium is absent. The plant body has an intricate arrangement of various tissue systems that aid its growth and development. The root is one of the key organs that helps us.
So, through video, we not only revise the part we studied, we learned a few new things. That is, whole body of plant can be subdivided into three parts. That is called outermost part, which is responsible for covering, is called, yesterday also I told you the name. The protective layer of plant is called epidermis.
Epidermis.
Okay. Inside epidermis, other than the circulation tissue, that is vascular bundle made up of xylem and phloem, there should be something in which vascular bundle, that is xylem phloem, embedded. So the part other than the epidermis and vascular bundle is known as ground tissue, which will include cortex, pericycle. Now, when we will see the cross section of plant parts, we will know slowly and gradually about cortex, what is pericycle, that we are going to learn. Apart from that, there will be vascular bundle. Now, we also studied about the types of vascular bundle. You know, I told you that in case of dicot plants, two types of or two stages of growths are possible. One is primary growth and the other one is secondary growth. Primary growth is the growth which is responsible for production of a seedling from a seed. And then if there is further growth of the plant which will convert it into a woody tree, that is endowed by the secondary growth. Whereas in monocot, secondary growth is generally absent. That's why monocots are generally not very huge and they are never having a tree-like structures. Okay, so that is why, let me tell you, it is very difficult to go for tissue culture of monocots also. So let's have a look into the PPT with tissue system, and then tomorrow we will continue with the part which is dealing specially the cross section of leaf, the cross section of root, and cross section of stem. Okay, so these are the three parts of the tissue, that is epidermal tissue system, ground, that is the fundamental tissue system, and the vascular or conductive tissue. In case of epidermal tissue, in stem part there is cuticle, in root there is no cuticle. Can you tell me why cuticle should not be present in root epidermis? Class?
Ma'am, it will affect its absorption as thick layer will be present.
Very good. As the function of root is to absorb water, and you know that absorption cannot be successful if there is waxy layer present. Water cannot come inside. How it will absorb? That's why in case of root, they do not have layer of cuticle. Another thing I wish to say, in case of stem, the hair, that is trichome present, are multicellular, whereas in case of root, it is unicellular. Other than that, stomata is there. Stomata, all of you studied during your like grade 10 biology class, that this is the aperture guarded by guard cells. So guard cells decide the stomata will be open or closed. Okay, so generally epidermis is single layer and it is made up of parenchymatous cell, and this is the structure of stomata by guard cell. These are dumbbell shaped guard cell. Now, why there should be control of this pore? What will happen if it could have been a pore only, no beta? उसकी opening closing control करना क्यों जरूरी है?
मैम वो कंट्रोल करना इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि अगर वो ओपन का ओपन ही रहेगा तो फिर वो कुछ अनवांटेड पार्टिकल्स भी अंदर आ सकते हैं.
Not exactly for that beta. Unwanted particle तो वैसे भी आ सकता है. Plant will have excess water loss. No?
Yes.
If there is water scarcity, we will learn about the opening closing mechanism of stomata in chapter number 11. You will come to know that various theories were proposed to describe the mechanism of opening and closing of stomata. So they are related with the situation in which plant is there. Okay. For example, in case of xerophytes, the plants which are habituated to stay in area where water scarcity is there, They have sunken stomata. Their stomatas are not present at the surface of the epidermis. They are deeply embedded. So these are the things which will prevent water loss. So now stomata is having a cell wall which is thick at one side, which is thin at other side. That's why if they get swelled by absorption of water, they bend and see, you can see that in this case the wall of stomata actually doesn't have any wall. I am saying it in a wrong. The guard cells are having wall. Stomata is the pore. So the guard cells are having thin wall which is present at the outside and thick wall is present in the inside. So due to this unequal thickness of the wall, the moment they absorb water to have swelling, or we use the word turgid condition, so the stomata is open. Apart from guard cells, there are cells which are called subsidiary cells which maintain the shapes of these guard shell cells and help them to for absorption of food and other. Okay. So guard cell, stomata and the subsidiary cell altogether called stomatal apparatus. So these are, so guard cells are full of chloroplast. So you can see the epidermis can have appendages like root hair, or it can have stem hair which are called branched or unbranched trichomes. They may be secretory also. For example, there are plants which cause itching of body part. You studied in chemistry grade 10, dock plant, acid, bases and salt chapter. So if you rub leaf of those plants in your hand, that will cause itching. So these substances which cause itching are secreted by these trichomes of the plant. Okay. Now these are ground tissues made up of parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. In case of leaf, the tissue present between two epidermis, because leaf is a flat structure, so it will have upper epidermis and lower epidermis. It is called mesophyll tissue. And last but not least, the most important one, vascular tissue, where xylem and phloem combine to form bundle structure called vascular bundle. So if plant is having secondary growth, that means in between xylem and phloem, there will be presence of cambium. We call such vascular bundle as open type. And if that is absent, we called closed. Do not get confused. Always remember, जिसमें xylem और phloem एक दूसरे से close रहते हैं, उनके बीच में कोई नहीं रहता है, that is closed vascular bundle. And case where cambium is present between them, it is called open vascular bundle. Okay. Now radial and conjoint. In case of radial, you can see xylems are separate, phloems are separate, and they are arranged in a radius. Whereas in case of conjoint, xylem and phloem are together present. So in our next lecture, we will continue with anatomy of dicot and monocot plant, where we will see how cells are arranged in cross section of root and leaf. You know, when I was teaching you plant kingdom classification, while teaching you bryophytes, I always used to say that root-like structure, stem-like structure, they are not true root and stem because externally they may be different, but internally they have same tissue. So this is the time we are going to know that how in higher plants, internally, externally, both ways they have different arrangement of different types of cells. That's all from my side today. Anyone, any doubt? Okay, then we will meet tomorrow and continue further. Okay. So bye to all of you. Bye, beta.
Bye, ma'am.